And something that we want to do in our party, not just in our engagement in different demographic groups, but to start highlighting more and more the people in our party that are the rising stars across the country. So at every meeting from here on, we're going to feature people across the country, some elected, some perhaps firefighters, perhaps municipal employees, or people involved in charities that are conservatives and Republicans that are really making a difference in the community. And today is one of those days. And so what we're going to do is I'm going to introduce everyone up here in the panel. I'm going to conduct, like I did yesterday, I'm going to ask each of them a couple questions, and then we're going to open it up to all of you to ask questions as well. First, to my left, we have Marilinda Garcia. She was first elected to the New Hampshire House of Representatives at age 23. She's in her 4th term. She's on the Finance Committee and has a record of leading on women's health and job growth. She's also a leader in the Latino community and has been featured in Latino Futures and Fox News Latino. She's received the Innovative Healthcare Pioneer Award from the National Foundation for Women Legislators and was recognized as one of the 45 most influential women under 45 by the Republican Security Council. And I want to thank her. And we also saw each other at GoPac as well. What city was that? Was we in New York? I think it was in New York. Well, thank you for coming, Marilinda. Karen Agnes, to my right, was the founder and president of the Network of Enlightened Women, the nation's premier organization for conservative university women. She's a graduate of the University of Virginia for both her undergrad and law degrees, and I can tell you it's not an easy law school to get into. She practiced law in D.C. and is a senior fellow at the Independent Women's Forum. She's been named as one of the Maverick PAC's 40 under 40, and last year she was also one of the Forbes 30 under 30, as well as Red Alert Politics 30 under 30. So thank you, Karen, for being here. Scott Erickson, back to my left, came all the way from California, where we just were a few months ago. He spent 15 years serving as a police officer in San Jose, working on the recognition and identification of terrorist organizations. He holds a Master of Science degree in Criminal Justice Studies from the University of Cincinnati. And if that weren't enough, Scott has collaborated extensively with the Heritage Foundation, frequently contributing to Heritage's blog, The Foundry. Scott has focused on issues of national security, including foreign terrorist organizations, law enforcement, and missile defense. He's co-authored several reports at Heritage, including his latest, Lessons from Benghazi, Investigation Leaves Important Questions Unanswered. Boy, do we agree with that. And to my right, the Speaker of the Oklahoma State House, T.W. Shannon. And he is the first African-American to hold that position. I had the privilege of meeting Speaker Shannon during my last trip to Oklahoma, and he's actually been on the road with me, helping the RNC raise money as well, so that's a big plus for TW. He's a registered member of the Chickasaw Nation and has worked as the Chief Administration Officer for Chickasaw Nation Enterprises. As Speaker, he's been the voice for limited government, personal responsibility. He's advocated selling state property to save taxpayer money and building Oklahoma's infrastructure. Speaker Shannon has been appointed to GoPac's National Advisory Board, which supports up-and-coming Republican leaders. And I'll let him tell you the truth about his truth sofa, but needless to say, I think a lot of you may want one after this. So why don't we get started? I'm going to ask a few questions, but first, why don't we go around the room, starting to my left. Tell us about, in 5 minutes, what brought you here, why are you a Republican, and what do you hope to accomplish now? Go ahead.
Sure. Well, thank you, Chairman, and thank you for having me here. I came from the great bastion of conservatism known as San Francisco. I was born and raised in the Bay Area, grew up in a very politically oriented household, if you will. It was not necessarily one that we had family members involved in politics, but it was one in which we talked about politics and we discussed the issues of the day. So growing up, as much as I resisted and as much as I wanted to talk about sports or other things, the conversation always kind of came back to current events. And that helped me, I think, grow up and be somebody who was concerned with the world, concerned with the nation. My father was a police officer, so when I turned 18 years old, I decided that's what I wanted to do. When I was 21 years old, I became a reserve officer with the city of San Jose. I did that for a few years and transitioned into a full-time job. And I've spent the past 11 years working the streets in the city of San Jose. As far as activism goes, I had developed a lot of close relationships with friends at the Heritage Foundation. And a few years ago, an opportunity arose for me to write and discuss and pontificate upon the issues that were important to me and do that through the Heritage Foundation. So over the past couple years, I've been writing extensively for Heritage, for their blog, The Foundry, and that opened up a lot of avenues of opportunity for me as well to write for other publications. I'm a Republican because the Republican Party exemplifies most closely the beliefs that I hold, the values that I hold, and the principles that I believe in, I think that we should be promoting. I'm here, just like each and every one of you, I'm here because as an individual there's only so much I can do, but as a group there's almost no limit to what we can do. And it's important that we get together, like minds, bring other people in who aren't necessarily of like mind, and include them in the conversation and developing a plan forward so that we can be successful in 2014 and beyond. So that's in a nutshell why I'm here.
Thanks, Scott. Marilinda?
Thank you, Ryan.
You bet.
Thank you all for having me. It's a real pleasure to be here, and especially in Boston. So my story, I was actually born in Boston, and then my family moved to New Hampshire for greener pastures, I guess you could say, when I was about 8. Then I subsequently came back here for college and higher ed, and then went back to New Hampshire. So similar to what Scott was saying, my family wasn't necessarily politically active in that nobody, to my knowledge, has ever been in any sort of elected office. But I do remember, on occasion I would get up there and hold signs with my mother or help canvass for a candidate about, something that was sparked in a discussion about an issue that was pressing or something that concerned us as a family. And when I went to college, I found that, of course, that being a time when, everything you think you know or, think you believed in, you're forced to really get down to the fundamentals of what it is and why it is you believe what you believe. And so I was involved with the college Republicans when I decided to register to vote. When I was 18, I too thought I most closely identified with the Republican Party in terms of the vision of the future of our country and all of the ideals of personal responsibility and individual freedom and all of that. And so in college I found I, of course, had to defend that a lot. And as a young female of Hispanic and Italian descent in higher ed, I often fell under the stereotype of, oh, you're a Republican, well, that's weird, So, which I think is offensive, number one, that people would assume such a thing based on, how I look or who I am. But it was great because it did force me to really come to terms and understand, again, why it is I believe what I believe and why I identify as a Republican. So beyond that, when I graduated, I was 23, and the midterm elections in 2006 were rolling around, and honestly, I just thought, I will help on a campaign. I called a friend that was involved in politics in the state and said, who can I sign up with, who needs help? And it was at that time that, for the first time ever, someone suggested, why don't you run yourself for state rep? And the thought had never crossed my mind. It was never something I thought would ever be a possibility for me or, anything I had considered. But at the end of the day, I realized that, the rudiments of campaigning and all of that are pretty basic. I had helped on other people's campaigns, so I figured I knew what to do, so I knocked on a lot of doors and did all of that, came up with my platform, and I ended up winning. So fast fast forward to today, it's been a great experience. I've loved, being involved and, working to help, my state, and now helping to promote the conservative ideals on the national level. And I think this is a great program because it's really important that people hear from those of us that are actually connecting all the time, with communities, with citizens, and are out there making decisions on issues that affect people's lives. So this is good. Thanks for inviting me.